Hello, everybody. Scott Golden with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel here, and this is the Raw review for the 29th of June, 2020. Like, subscribe, comment below, and that is a good thing to do. In the end, this was a horrible show. I just. Raw is getting worse and worse, and there's very little that's going to be done about it, at least from my estimation. So they start with a scene of utter chaos as the contract signing has already started. Now, if this were real and the stars of Raw wanted to be, actual stars, wouldn't they want people to be watching what they're doing, right? And so the idea would be that they would want someone to pay attention to the fact that they're doing this contract signing, which, by the way, they've done contract signings for, almost 35 years now, probably 33, 34 years. And they basically always end up in a brawl. They're one of the most predictable things ever. And once you've been a fan for about 2 years, you've seen one contract signing, you've seen them all. Who cares? But anyway, they start this off. I did find it interesting that Samoa Joe referred to himself as the host of Raw. Maybe they're going back to the host uh, concept here. Um, there is an acknowledgement of uh, fans wearing masks, which I guess, or paid folks wearing masks, which I guess is fine, but not everyone's going to do it. It is what it is. Um, wrestlers, both Asuka and Banks and Ziggler and McIntyre brawl all over the place. Yada yada. Um, Ziggler interrupts. He thanks Joe with a ton of sarcasm for the opportunity and waiting for instructions. They introduced Drew McIntyre and said he would be champion for another 3 weeks. Now, look at this. And during this promo, Dolph Ziggler talks about being in the WWE for 15 years. For 15 years you are, in fact, just now coming to the reality that you are getting another title shot, and you've held the main championship maybe for less than a month. 15 years later, why should people care that Dolph Ziggler's getting another title shot here? It's poor storytelling. It also shows no dedication to building new stars. And the fact that Drew McIntyre, who is probably the biggest thing to a potential long-term star that they've had in the last 5 years, is rendered with matches with Lashley and now Ziggler, guys who are inconsequential at best, just really speaks to the fact that they don't care about their storytelling any longer. Anyway, Ziggler says that he remained with the company for the entirety of 15 years. And then he basically says that this is a redemption story, and Ziggler said he created McIntyre and would destroy him. An Extreme Rules horror show. Why does Extreme Rules need a secondary name? I don't understand that either. Anyway, how you haven't given me any depth here. How did Ziggler create McIntyre? Most of the fans that are around now and know this version of Drew McIntyre probably don't know the extensive history between the two. I wouldn't think. And if they do, still, it's several years ago. Why not give a little bit of a crash course in that way? They signed the contract and said they used to be like family. Drew says he knows why every time he got close to the top, Ziggler would cut him off. And every time Ziggler gets close to the top, he would drop the ball. Then Drew basically says he's going to slaughter Ziggler at the pay-per-view or network per-view. And he said Ziggler's the only one to believe he's having a chance, and he's going to give Ziggler the opportunity to be the one to select the stipulation. Ultimately, Sorry, allergies here. Ultimately, Ziggler is talking, or starts talking again, and manages to go roundabout, and then Asuka gets involved. She yells in Japanese. Banks says she wasn't the same person that Asuka faced before. Banks said she'd be two belts Banks. Why do we have nicknames for, like, just because Becky Lynch did it with the Becky two belts doesn't mean that we need to give nicknames to the every time women have more than one championship. I don't know. Anyway, so she signs. Bailey said it would be a horror show, and Asuka laughed at her own joke. Angel Garza, then we go to the back. She speaks with referee Jessica Carr, who's officiating his match later. He's flirting with her. Charlie Caruso appears, asks what's up. She's showing just a little bit of jealousy. Caruso then asks a different question, and that is if they thought they could be next in line for a tag shot if they beat the Viking Raiders. Andrade, of course, says yes. Why would he even say no? Like, why do you have interviewers asking really, really stupid questions? Big Show interrupts. He says he's got issues with Randy Orton, and he's going to go out next. And he refers to the tag team as Ferrari and Maserati. And then we are announced that McIntyre and Asuka will face Ziggler and Banks later tonight. That, by the way, is your main event, which just shows me, I mean, I understand that they have to fill time every week, right? They've got to fill, 3 hours of Raw, 3 hours or 2 hours of SmackDown, so that's 5, and 2 hours of NXT, so that's 7. Without commercials, probably about 5 hours of TV. That's a lot of TV. Anyway, but still, just episodic television, there's nothing in the week to week that makes me go, if I miss Raw, it's really going to matter. I honestly believe if I miss TNT Dynamite, if I miss even the MLW product, if I miss even Impact some weeks, it's like, if I miss this, I might miss one or two good segments. I never believed that about Raw, and it's been years since I have. Anyway, so Big Show calls out Randy Orton. Instead, he gets Andrade and Garza. He warns them not to try him and mess with him. They mock the Big Show for being a legend, which, explain to me how, when you have a guy that's been around for, 25 years, he's not a legend. And explain to me how anybody sees it as relatable to not call him a legend. Like, I get being a heel, but it's just, call him fat, call him ugly, call him something that people can go, no, he's not. Like, of course he's a legend, and the argument ends there, and you just look stupid. Anyway, Selena Vega says that he can say hi to Edge and Christian at the retirement home when they're done with him. Flair interrupts, said he respects Vega and her crew, and Flair basically says Orton would take out Show whenever he wants to. Show's getting his time in Hollywood with a kiddie show. Orton would become an even bigger legend killer at his expense eventually. Flair tells Andrade and Garza to go at it and have fun with Show. And, like, why bring Ric Flair in for this subpar storyline? He's like 70, 72 years old. Number one, he's a high risk for coronavirus. Even higher because he's had heart issues. Like, are we that brain dead in the scripting of WWE that let's put a guy's life on the line because we need him for a throwaway segment? Really? Like, it's disgusting and egregious and unfortunate. Anyway, so we finally move on to the first match of the night, at least 20 minutes in, probably longer than that. The match itself is not good. not really useful. It's Andrade and Angel Garza with Zelina Vega versus the Viking Raiders. And ultimately, I mean, it's not good because it's skippable. It's not good because it's an unnecessary match. And if you really care about your long term product, why are you doing throwaway matches that don't matter after giving us 25 minutes of talk segments? Anyway, so there's a moment early in the match where Andrade wants to tag, Garza won't tag. Then they go after Eric for a while. Garza is yelling at him for not tagging. He complains to Vega. Post break, Andrade's back in, and Vega explained to the announcers that she's the best manager in the business. If she's the best manager in the business, how come she can only keep her team happy for like half a match at best? And says that she's what MVP hoped to be, except MVP is consistently at least leading his charges forward. Vega claims in denial that there's no problems between her men. Andrade is distracted by Jessica Carr long enough for Garza to shove Eric into the ring post, and then Eric hits a back elbow, finishes him off with the wing clipper for a pinfall victory. And I mean, so you spend all that time building up the Viking Raiders with the Street Profits thing, and now you have them get beat. Again, no long-term storytelling whatsoever. Garza and Vega celebrate, but Andrade leaves on his own. Here's another wasted segment. The Iconics approached Ruby Riott, calls her a freak and a weirdo. They notice she tries to call Liv Morgan. They make fun of her because she can't get in touch with her, which ultimately leads to her making fun of them for losing their tag title shot. Iconics said that at least they have each other, which, what's that doing for their respective careers exactly? Remains to be seen. Garza and Andrade are arguing backstage. Flair approaches them and congratulates them on their win. They're happy with that. And Flair propositions Vega. And then we see another wasted segment. R-Truth, Akira Tozawa. They go just over a minute. 1 minute for the 24/7 championship deal, which I guess is fine if you're happy with this. But at the end of the day, it's ridiculous. So R-Truth is feigning an injury, rolls him up to win the match. Truth says now he's a 37-time champion, which means he is also a 36-time loser. A ninja tries pinning Truth, and Truth kicks out of that. Bobby Lashley tells MVP that Apollo Crews disrespected him. MVP assures him that the offer of Crews is officially dead, and he'd drop a few gems on Crews tonight. They cross paths with Seth Rollins and Murphy, and Rollins says he's got the most important message that he's ever had to deliver. Hopefully it's that this character is ending. We go into the second hour. Big Show faces Andrade and Garza in a handicap match later tonight. So they've already had one match. They're going to have another. Okay. So again, it's issues with COVID, I assume, for people not being there. But then why don't you just show some of the, 100,000 hours of footage that you have for video packages, even to, hype Extreme Rules rather than having people wrestle twice. Anyway, so Rollins and Murphy out to the ring, and then they do a reasonably long video package. Rollins makes jokes about Mysterio's eyes and his sight and his lack of sight. And then they do piped in boos, which doesn't help for things. Rollins asks for forgiveness for what he's going to have to do in the future, and says he's bound by fate to Mysterio, and Mysterio is meant to be a sacrifice to the greater good, and Rollins is going to tear him down piece by piece. This is just, it's more of the same that we see every week, and it's not getting better, and it's not getting more fruitful, and it's not using time any better. So Ray and Dominic, who I guess are quarantined at home or they couldn't travel or whatever, they appear on the screen and do a from-home promo. Ray asks for forgiveness for what he's going to do to Rollins. I don't ever remember guys asking for forgiveness on such a regular basis. Ray says it's his time to go after Rollins. Ray warns Rollins an eye for an eye. Dominic forgives Ray, but he said he'd never forgive Rollins. Dominic said Rollins will never forget what Ray does to him. And so the babyface is going to be extra violent. This makes sense? How? Anyway, Rollins warns them to be careful and threatens to end Dominic's career before it even begins. Aleister Black and Carrillo come out, and Rollins and Murphy leave the ring. Rollins asks Black and Carrillo why they keep fighting for Mysterio. Carrillo calls Rollins a coward, easy for me to say twice. Black said he recognizes evil when he sees it, and he's going to force Rollins to atone for what he's done. Rollins said this ends now. So then we go into a 10.5-minute match with Seth Rollins and Murphy defeating Aleister Black and Carrillo. Now, why are we killing the baby faces? So Black and Carrillo have been pushed for months, and the first active duty that Bruce Pritchard does is to kill them off to heels that we're tired of, well, not Murphy, but certainly Rollins, we're tired of seeing. Anyway, so Black's all over both of his opponents. Murphy distracts the referee long enough to attack from behind. Black uses a back elbow and tagged in Carrillo, who stomped away on Murphy and hits an enziguri. Carrillo follows up with a springboard crossbody and a missile drop kick. He's going for the 619, but Rollins pulls Murphy away from it. Carrillo kicked Rollins off the apron, takes them both out with a dive. Black makes hot tag, hits some strikes and a springboard moonsault. Black nails a knee, and Carrillo hit a 619. Rollins breaks up the cover. Rollins gives Black a suicide dive. Again, dives in an empty building. And then Murphy gave Carrillo a lifting knee strike for near fall. They almost botched that, and it was an unexpected finish, but they saved it at the last minute. Murphy and Rollins used a combo powerbomb flying knee strike. Could have been a finish, but wasn't. Black yanks Murphy from the ring, and Carrillo rolls up Rollins, and Rollins hits a curve stomp for the win. Not a bad match. If you look at it from the standpoint of just the quality of the match, it was fine. All guys worked hard. Everybody is putting in their time. But why do you not give the babyfaces your win here? It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, Rollins and Murphy attack after the match. Carrillo's fighting back, knocked him down with the steel steps. Rollins puts a mysterious mask on Carrillo and tries taking his eye out. Black makes the save, and there's another curve stomp, this time on top of the steel steps. There's an interview with Asuka and McIntyre backstage, asking what they hope to gain from the match. Asuka responds, obviously in Japanese. McIntyre says they wanted to have some fun. He wanted Ziggler to pick the stipulation for the title match, so he'd have no excuse when he gets beaten. And McIntyre said Sasha wasn't ready for Asuka. Asuka says that Dolph isn't ready for McIntyre. And everybody hugs and has a nice time. Anyway, so they air the Undertaker tribute video, which I will be doing the SmackDown review upcoming here tonight. Riot's warming up backstage. She's approached by Lana. Riot seems annoyed to see her. Lana is speaking, but Ryan interrupts because she's not interested in any of this. Riot says that Lana should go ruin someone else's career. Lana says she wants to help. And so basically they acknowledge that Natty Neidhart has the most wins in women's wrestling history in WWE. Don't know how true that is, but I guess it could be, because Natalya's probably been one of the longer running women uninterrupted, which I've never, I mean, I saw her appeal when she was in the Indies. I've never seen her appeal on the main WWE roster, but then again, it is what it is. They show a recap of Asuka's win last week. They acknowledge Charlotte having a fractured collarbone, which will explain why she's out for an extended period of time. Then we have another unfortunate match, Peyton Royce with Billie Kay, defeating Ruby Riot in 3.25 minutes. Riot's distracted by Kay from the start. Royce kicks her and takes control. Riot back with strikes and an STO for near fall. Royce with a roll up for near fall. Riot schoolgirl for a near fall. Useless match, especially when there's a spinning brainbuster that looks nice but also dangerous. Big Show tells Caruso that the nice match tonight could be an easy trap. Flair was a hero to Big Show as a kid, but you know, Flair's managing Orton now, and that makes Orton even more dangerous. Show welcomed the challenge and tells Orton to try him, and it is what it is. So we go into the dreaded third hour. We see Garza and Andrade again with Vega, this time in a 1-on-2 handicap match going just over 5.5 minutes. Andrade and Garza couldn't agree on who should start the match. They go after Big Show at the same time. However, Garza is left alone. Show hits chops and does what he needs to do. Eventually, there's a tag. Show beat up Andrade until he tags Garza back in. Garza drop kicks Show in the leg and fell face first onto the buckle. Garza stomps away at him. Andrade tags himself back in, which leads to an argument. Garza leaves, and Vega tries pleading with him to get him to stay. This does not work. Show gives Andrade the chokeslam for the pinfall. And then we go to the back. Ricochet, Cedric Alexander, and Apollo Crews all speaking backstage. Truth bumps into them and tells them that he's kind of shook up. And he refers to them by celebrity names to try and be funny. And then Crews and Alexander were amused by his humor, and Crews told Truth that they didn't know what it was like being a fighting champion. Truth said he had no idea. This was a completely stupid segment. Anyway, MVP with Bobby Lashley against Crews in a match that goes almost 6.75 minutes. MVP cuts a promo on Crews before the match till he's interrupted by Crews himself, and he says that Crews should have listened to MVP and the first time, and he's only trying to help him, and he would wish he had a manager instead of an enemy. Crews uses a flip dive early, but only hits Lashley. MVP launches him into the steel steps, which leads to a break. Crews comes back, hits a stinger splash and springboard for 2. there's a pinfall win for Lashley, or for MVP, after a boot and a fisherman suplex. So now MVP, who's well over 40, is beating the U.S. champion in non-title action. Why? Cruz attacks MVP post-match. Lashley puts him in the full Nelson. Referees couldn't stop him. Ricochet and Alexander run down. They're not strong enough to stop Lashley either. Somehow Ricochet manages to turn this into a match. Ricochet hits a springboard dropkick to knock him down before the match begins. Lashley with MVP defeats Ricochet with Cedric Alexander. I remember when Ricochet was like the biggest thing in wrestling, at least independent wrestling. Now he's jobbing to Bobby Lashley. That's just sad. Lashley's in full control, gets some help from MVP when MVP takes the referee. Lashley uses a modified Dominator for a near fall. Lashley uses his power to dominate Ricochet for most of the entire match. Lashley throws him around, much to the amusement of Samoa Joe on commentary. Lashley goes for a spear, but Ricochet collapses first. They go for the full Nelson, but Ricochet slips out of it. And then Ricochet slips out a second time, pushes him into the steel post. Ricochet follows with a lion salt for near fall. Ricochet is distracted by MVP, and then Cedric Alexander helps out. Ricochet avoids an attack by Lashley, and then gives him a big spine buster. Lashley follows up with a full Nelson into a submission win, and Lashley's busted open from ear to ear, and we assume that's from the steel post shot. Ziggler speaks to Banks and Bayley. He offers to be a player coach in the tag match tonight. Banks laughed at the idea, and Bayley told him not to screw things up for Banks. We go to the main event, which is your mixed tag, Sasha Banks with Bayley, defeating Dolph Ziggler, and Dolph Ziggler, defeating Asuka and Drew McIntyre in just over 14 minutes. Match wasn't bad. Bayley's on commentary, which is always good. Bayley's getting better and better as a speaker, so hopefully she's got a career for after her in-ring career ends. Anyway, Ziggler uses a Fameasser, kinda, early in the match. McIntyre kicks out before they even get to a 1 count. Banks tags herself in. Asuka's in the match now. Brief exchange. Ziggler tries to interfere. McIntyre cuts him off. Asuka takes Banks out with a back elbow. We go to a break. We come back. Ziggler has McIntyre in a headlock. McIntyre tries to reverse and then goes for the reverse Alabama slam. Ziggler counters into a roll-up, following up with a DDT after that. Banks tags in. Asuka catches her with strikes, a German suplex. Shining Wizard for near fall. Asuka knocks Banks out of the ring. Bayley distracts her, and Banks follows up with a double knee strike to take over. Asuka uses Codebreaker and tags in McIntyre, who hits Ziggler with a clothesline, overhead suplexes and flying clotheslines. Banks tags herself back in, yells at McIntyre, who elbows Ziggler, and then they're out of the ring. Banks wasn't paying attention, so Asuka uses a roundhouse kick for near fall. Ziggler pushes McIntyre into the ring post. Are they having a love affair with the ring post? Anyway, back in the ring, Banks and Asuka trade moves until Banks rolls through and Asuka lock into a pinfall for a surprise victory. The heels celebrate to close the show. My gosh, this review feels long, but the show felt like it took 8 years. Just not good. Anyway, we'll be back with more great wrestling content in a little bit. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.